Okay, so welcome back. Pillar number 1, lecture number 3. Okay? Human nature. So, in the first lecture, we introduced the concept and idea of human action. Human action is innate, purposeful, it takes place in the state.
Recording in progress.
So, human action is innate, purposeful, and it takes place in the state of nature. Okay? So, human beings act. Action doesn't take place in a vacuum, but in the state of nature. And every action, right, we're motivated, right? Action, what precedes our human action is our human nature. And I want to focus and include about human nature. We also have seen that out of fear, right, people tend to do what? Say, you know, well, we need to have a centralized authority and enslave themselves and let themselves be governed. Out of fear, we let ourselves be enslaved and be governed. Leading to political authority, absolute authority. We talked about the Leviathan, Hobbes, minarchism. What is minarchism? Small government, right? Only government that only provides the protection and jurisprudence, right? Democracy is majority voting, same idea. And statism, centralized authority. So I'm using some of these terms interchangeably. So in the politics of obedience, some of you may still ask, why out of fear? Where is this fear coming from? Right? So there's a book called The Politics of Obedience by Etienne de la Boétie. He identifies several causes for why people submit themselves to voluntary servitude. Why do we voluntarily submit ourselves to a higher authority? Knowing all well, right, that there's something wrong with the centralized authority. They're making polls. Most people are not happy with the state of affairs. Most people don't trust governments. In the US, around the world, it's even worse. Go to most countries. People, citizens, don't trust their government. And then they say, but they're falling into the trap. They say, oh, maybe it's this government. Maybe it's the Republicans. Then let's go Democrats. Maybe it's like the Libertarians. Or maybe it's like the right or the left. All people, the world, all the people, they don't like their governments, but they're into they don't know there's an alternative. Like the paradigm shift is like there is an alternative. It's not a matter of right and left. It's a completely different idea. How about the absence of centralized authority? Oh, they fear that there will be chaos. No, it would be harmony, peace, prosperity. It would be the most equitable, the most just. Okay, they haven't been exposed. Nobody likes. Some call it a necessary evil. We don't like the government, but it's a necessary evil. No, okay, it's a trap. So get out of this mindset. Don't be in fear. Okay, so in the politics of obedience, I'm not going to talk too much about the book because I want to move on. But if you're interested in topics like this, he gives a series of categorically describes why people, right, let themselves or submit themselves to voluntary servitude and let themselves be governed by tyrants, 16th century political philosopher. The alternative is no fear. What binds us together is the division of labor, the interconnectedness. Okay? I'm not going to take Gabriel's book and car and his watch and his money because I benefit more by doing what? Specializing and exchanging with him. Right? Theft is short-lived. Coming and stealing your laptop from you, right, gives me a short-term benefit. But how about we specialize and we trade? I can benefit for life. Right? Every relationship is exploitative. Oh, you're exploiting. Exploit more. Every relationship should be exploitative. You're in the class, you want to exploit me, you want to ask me the most questions, you want to get the most out of me. Right? That's exploitative, you want the most. There's nothing wrong with exploiting each other's comparative advantages. Okay? Exploit, ask more questions. Okay? Demand more explanations. Right? So this exploitative, based on our comparative advantages, it's what binds us together. Don't fear, there is no chaos. Anarchy is an order, is a contractual societal order. We're bound by our interconnectedness and interdependence based on division of labor and our comparative advantages. There is a symbiotic relationship among all of us. That's the equilibrium. I'm not providing you a utopia. There'll be murderers, there'll be criminals, there'll be rapists, right? But at the smaller scale. I'm not saying human nature, I don't want to change human nature. I fully understand human nature, right? And I'm trying to find out what's the best system of governance, right? What's the best system of institutional governance, market governance, that is in harmony and aligns with our self-interest and with our preferences, based on our human nature in the state of nature. Okay, that's what we're trying to discover. And I'm saying we are at a disequilibrium with the centralized authority. Okay? Obviously, we have 10 more pillars to go. We want to talk about the economics of it, right, etc., the underlying, but I'm just giving you the general direction. Okay, so anarchic social order is the alternative. So far this is what we've seen. We've seen human action, purposeful human action, the characteristics of human action. Only individuals act, society doesn't act, right? What is action? So we talked about the characteristics of human action. Human action is purposeful. Human action has goals, it sets its goal. And the implications of human action is what we're going to study throughout the course. So, human beings act, but human beings don't act in a vacuum, they act in the state of nature, right? So that's the external environment, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, human beings. So that's the state, the general state. And human action is in the state of nature, but what motivates us, the way that we act, right, is we are pre-wired by our human nature. That's where I would like to talk about. We mentioned about the self-interest, etc. I want to build on this a little bit, okay? But that's the idea. So economics is the study of the implications of human action. What are the implications? The implication that human beings enter society and build market institutions. The implications that human beings enter society and they explore different forms of governance. Some of the implications that human beings try to discover a medium of exchange, a medium of security, right? A medium of a warm glow, the philanthropy. So those are the implications, and all the human implications, right, are the results of human beings acting, and action is taking place in the general state of environment, and what precedes human action is our innate human nature. Okay, that's the summary of the course. So our actions are not robotic, but they are human-centric. From most economics textbooks, even sometimes Austrian textbooks, this part is missing. They just take the human being as given, and suddenly, oh, this is self-interest, or people are doing this way. Our analysis in the social sciences is the human beings, right? We're not studying robots, we're not engineers. This is not an engineering course, nor an accounting course. This is a course on human beings. So we must understand what does it mean to be a human being, what is human nature. So we have to identify the subject that we're studying, what are the characteristics and its intrinsic nature. So this is what's missing in most economics mainstream textbooks.
So with the idea of exploitation, then is every interaction between one human and another transactional?
Sorry, with the idea of exploitation, every action is gainful to the individual.
Yeah, so every action is transactional.
Yeah. It could be transactional, it could be emotional, it could be love. But if I love the most, if you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be like business transactional.
Right.
I mean, it's subject, some of it is business transactional. Right. Some of it is emotional. We're emotional beings, we have the warm glow, it's biological, I don't want to say emotional, but biological.
Right.
Feelings have biological impacts on you, right? We will slightly talk about it, not expand too much on it. But every action, every action is a gainful action. I'd rather call it gainful than transactional, right? Every action is gainful, every action is self-interested. But the beauty, your self-interest is going to lead to the betterment of the society as if guided by an individual, by an invisible hand. Your self-interest, your gainful, when you're exploiting your relationships, it's a bad word, it's a bad meaning, but the word to exploit is to get the maximum out. And get the maximum out of your wife, of your children, like demand the most from me, ask me questions, right? I mean, you're going to the best school for the lowest price. So what are you doing? If you go to UCLA, you're exploiting you. You went all the universities, this is the highest rank based on the price and its value and its location, right? So you're doing the best, so you're picking your preferences, right, are the ones that optimize your well-being or your satisfaction. And why aren't you going to another college? You know, you want to have lunch, you pick a restaurant, you pick the Chinese restaurant, but you're not going to the Italian restaurant. But when you go to the Chinese restaurant, you're picking the ones that's the tastiest and with the most reasonable price, right? So you're exploiting, you're not going there, you're not saying, oh, poor Italian restaurant, I'm going to go one day there. You're not being fair, right? You're doing what maximizes your utility, your satisfaction. So I'm calling it exploiting, exploitative. I like it, I like controversial words, okay? Well, I want to demystify some of the words. Are like, oh, you can't touch it, you can't say this, you can't say, like, demystify it. You know, because the reason I'm using the words exploitative because Karl Marx said, you know, like the bourgeoisie and then the capitalist pigs are exploiting the workers. So I don't want to say, oh, like, let's not exploit the workers. Capitalism doesn't exploit workers, it does the opposite. Right? And we're going to talk about mercantilism and how the capitalist system during the Industrial Revolution actually lifted up the workers and the serfs, turned them into the kings, the market participants. The workers had their preferences manifest themselves in the marketplace. They started making more money, they started commanding higher wages, demanding more goods and services. So output was based on their preferences rather than the preference of the nobility. So capitalism lifted the poor and the unfortunate numbers out of society, right? So from the word understood, there's no exploitation. But from my perspective, I'm just being like counter, you know, make good out of the use of the word exploitative or exploitation. Anyways, so economics is the study of human action in the state of nature, given human nature. Now, human nature, human beings, we have two types of characteristics. I call one of them is evolutionary characteristics, it's called nomological. Another one is essentialist. It's like by virtue of us being human beings, we have some characteristics. Now, what is essentialist characteristics? These are genotypical characteristics that don't change with the passage of time. They're not evolutionary, okay? So, this includes aging. All species age. We all are going to age. Reproduction. All species reproduce. Okay, whether it's the animal kingdom, okay, or the plant kingdom, or the human kingdom, we all produce. We all consume energies. Okay, all species consume energies. When I say energy, we need body heat, temperature, food, water, energies of life. We all consume energy. We all have various circadian rhythms. It's like sleeping patterns. Plants turn in the afternoon in one direction and then they change. We have circadian rhythm, which is we have patterns. Animals have it. Plants have it. Plants behave certain at different times of different years, or different months of the year, right? They turn into a circle direction where there are like innate rhythms. Mortality. We all die, all species. There's no species that don't die. Okay, plants die, animals die, human beings, we have mortality. We all desire and must maintain a homeostatic equilibrium. This is the innate genetic equilibrium, body temperature, okay? Otherwise we freeze, so we need some liquid pH level at the cellular level, right? So these are like homeostatic equilibrium is required. These are all essentialists. Is the mule in this category? Mules. You know the animal, the mule? Are mule considered species?
No.
Why not?
They cannot reproduce.
They cannot reproduce. Okay? Mules cannot reproduce. So we're looking at species that are reproduction. Okay, so besides the mules, everything else reproduces. What is nomological characteristics of human beings? These are evolutionary. What does it mean? Evolutionary. That means over time we evolved. Okay? They are phenotypical, susceptible to external environmental influence. That means natural selection worked on us and we changed. Okay? Physiological change. So evolution, this includes cognitive capacity. 50,000 years ago, we didn't have the same cognitive capacity as we do today. Our ancestors didn't have the same cognitive capacity, right? So it's evolutionary. Some species have it, some species don't have it, right? Some animals have certain degree of cognitive capacity. Plants, they have certain degrees of cognitive capacity. They protect themselves, you know. They reserve water. There are studies done, the peas. So they were watering some of the peas over here, and then they're starving the other ones over there. But somehow, the other ones over there, they were getting water, but they stopped consuming it. They started storing it, because there was drought on this side. So they've done experiments, like as if peas are communicating with one another, you know. So even the plants, they have some mechanism of self-defense, right? But this is unique, but in general, it's distinctive to our human beings. That's what differentiates us from the rest of the animals, is our cognitive capacity, okay? Artistic expression is evolution, is unique to human beings. Bipedalism, it's evolutionary, okay? Again, if you believe in evolution or religion, things like that, but you know, but bipedalism, right, is an evolutionary feature. Complex communications, the epicantic fold of the eyelid, the upper eyelid, to protect the inner eye from cold weather, in particular cold winds, okay? The epicantic fold of the eye, right? That is evolutionary. That's because the cold weather over time, generation after generation, led to the epicantic. So these are nomological characteristics. So as an economist, I have to take the essentialist characteristic, all of this into consideration, our mortality, our aging, the circadian rhythm, all of this into consideration when I'm studying the human being in the marketplace, optimizing, minimizing cost, maximizing profits, the interest rate, the demand and supply, right, load of the demand, the low of supply, everything are driven by these human nature, okay? So I'm trying to make economics more human-centric, okay, rather than business-centric. So economists also must take into account our nomological characteristics. Okay, so when we study, we have to understand that we have artistic expression, we have cognitive capacity. These are evolutionary. So given our human nature, both essentialist and nomological, human beings economize, we act efficiently, we compete with one another, we cooperate. These human activities occur in humans' habitat. We have to know the external environment, our ecosystem, right? The habitat is the physical environment, and the ecosystems are the organisms, right? Plants, animals, and other organisms, and interactions with our kin, with our one another, right? So as an economist, I have to take human nature, right, into consideration. So it is essentialist feature and unique nomological features that govern human action and the study of economics. Human beings must adhere to nomological characteristics in addition to essentialist one. We have to abide by this. It has been written, the equation has been written, we cannot revisit, okay? It's not like let's change it, okay? The homeostatic equilibrium that human beings desire, our survival instincts, chemical energy, we need food, we need heat. The core body temperature must be somewhere between 68 and 77 for optimal enzyme functioning. Mechanical energy, we need light energy. Okay, this is for homeostatic equilibrium. We need vitamin D, crucial for bone health, immune system. So human survival inherently aligns with human nature. So our human action to survive must align with our human nature and the desire for homeostatic equilibrium. Whether human action is competitive, cooperative, selfish, or injurious or harmless is incidental to the purpose of life. So whether if I'm hurting someone, I'm competing, whether I'm causing harm, or whether I'm loving, all of these are secondary to they're incidental to the human being. My goal is to survive. But my goal of survival is leading all kinds of harmonious relationships, as if guided by an invisible hand, okay? That's what we want to analyze, how your self-interest, given how your human nature and your desire to survive, is actually creating a survivalist environment for everyone in it. And that all of this is guided by the division of labor, okay? Survival is innate, organic, and original. Nothing else is original, innate, or but survival is. It is genetically determined, our survivalist instinct. An action must be in accordance with our innate purpose, okay? So our innate purpose, all of this again goes down to self-interest, as if it's a flaw in human beings, okay? There's plenty of economists that have done studies actually without self-interest, the human species would have died out, okay? It's the self-interest that benefits everyone in society. Because my self-interest leads me to do what? To interact with others, okay? Understanding human nature is fundamental to understanding human action. Surprisingly and unfortunately, most economic textbooks, some economists, right, they omit and dismiss the subject altogether. There's no mention of human nature. I never took a course. I was a student at UCLA, at other universities, you know. There was no understanding of human nature. It was like very mechanical, robotic, demand and supply. Price goes up, demand goes down, quantity goes up, continuous, some elasticities. What is that? It's mechanical, robotic, boring, dull. I don't even know why some of you would pick economics as a major, okay? Unfortunately, it's changed since the 50s and 60s, and it wasn't like this originally. We're going to trace the roots of economists all the way to Lao Tzu, 2004, 3000 BC, all the way to the Spanish scholastic, French physiocrats, right? Economics is a social science, it's the study of human beings. It's not some mechanical causal relationship, but economics is teleological, teleology. It's not a causational relationship, but it's this causational study, but teleological. That means action that has purpose. A firm raises prices to increase its profits, etc. Given, right? So we're not studying price goes up, quantity demand goes down. That's mechanical, that's causal, that's robotic. But economics is teleological. Why did the firm raise the prices? What was the purpose? Because action has a purpose, it's a purposeful action, right? So a true economic theory must be built on a prior knowledge of human nature and the state of nature. Historical background. The whole idea of studying human beings and human nature started with the Greeks, okay, 6th century BC, the Socratics. Right? They shifted their interest from the study of the universe and the cosmos, right, into the study of human nature, right? There was a shift in the study to human-centric inquiry. For the Socratic, human nature had a metaphysical. Unfortunately, they didn't get it right. They thought human nature has a metaphysical concept. That means that it has a purpose imposed on us, right? And imposed, and the purpose, the metaphysical purpose is seeking the good. So it's like God or nature put some purpose in us. So we exist independent of the external environment, and we have an innate purpose, and that's being set by nature or the gods, okay? So the Socratics conceptualized human nature as independent of the state of nature, right? Human nature that possesses a transcendental and cosmic purpose, a metaphysical purpose of seeking the good. However, the Misesian perspective, right? Mises is the founder of the Austrian school of, he's not the founder, but he's one of the leading scholars. He's considered to be the dean of the Austrian school of economics. You know who's the founder of the Austrian school of economics?
Carl Menger.
Right there. Okay? He's the founder. That's why the institute is called Carl Menger Institute. Okay? So Carl Menger is the founder, but Ludwig von Mises is considered to be the dean of the Austrian school of economics. His perspective views human nature physiologically. He says we don't have some cosmic reason to exist. It's not like the gods and the nature put us here to do good. No, he said we have an innate nature. It's physiological because there are scarcities, because we're organic, we need the energies of life, right? So our purpose is to do what? To maintain homeostatic equilibrium, not to maintain some abstract goodness, or we're not put on planet Earth for some abstract reasons, but our goal is to maintain ourselves, and because it's not it's physiological, right, rather than being metaphysical. Metaphysical means the gods and the the relationship between human nature and human action is understood through the lens of praxeological reasoning rather than metaphysical speculation. It's a speculation. Praxeology is what? Praxeology means praxi and logi is, anyone? What is praxeology? The meaning of praxeology? The study of
Human action.
human action, okay? The study of human action in the catalepsy, in the marketplace, okay? The study of human action using a deductive methodology. We're going to talk about methodology tomorrow, okay? Relation between human action and human nature is praxeological and not metaphysical, okay? We don't just exist to do something. We exist for ourselves, okay? Our praxeology is human-centric. Natural assumption, let's talk about a little bit about human nature. The natural assumption of the study of human nature and the science economics focuses on the biological species, Homo sapiens, which anatomically speciated about 300,000 years. We human beings physically speciated 300,000 years ago from hominin lineage, okay? So physically, 300,000 years ago, there was speciation. We are changing right now. It's so small, we don't see it in our life. But speciation is happening, it never stops. It's dynamic, we are speciating, okay? 300,000 years from now, human beings will not be the same way as we are today. Speciation is constant, okay? But it's so small that we don't see it in our lifetime, we don't see it in our century, or 5 centuries, or 100 centuries. I'm talking about 50,000 years, or 300,000 years, okay? Cognitively, we're speciating. Such small increments that we don't see it in our lifetime, neither in the lifetime of our grandchildren or great-grandchildren, right? But when you look at 50,000, 100,000, 300,000 years, speciation is always existent, okay? However, cognitively, not physically, but cognitively, we speciated about 50,000 years. All I'm doing this is just telling you that the science of economics is valid for our species, okay? In the future, if there is speciation or there is cognitive capacities are changing, maybe at some point in time we run out of scarcity, maybe we'll find a way we can live forever. I don't know if the science of economics applies anymore. So the science of economics is temporal to our nature, okay? So the science of economics deals with the species, with our cognitive capacity for abstract thought, language, cooperation, higher levels of reasoning, deliberation, contemplation, conceptualization, and coordination, which contribute to the survival of Homo sapiens relative to other species. As economics, we take interest in behaviorally modern humans. Such we restrict our analysis to contemporary humans, okay? No transhumanism. It's a science, right, that studies our nature. So it's a temporal investigation, right, within this time frame. Also possess essentialist characteristics that initiated calculated purposeful action. So human nature would then be the object of temporal investigation. Human nature in its essential and nomological features is constant within the time frame of analysis, right? So we're assuming there's no speciation going on, no nomological nor essentialist characteristics are changing, right? So this is the time frame that we are studying. An important characteristics of human nature is our self-interest, right? We have noted in our first lecture that the predominant quality in survival, successful survival of the genes is our self-interest, okay? However, obviously, I mean, there are divergent viewpoints. However, philosophers Elliot Sober and David Sloan Wilson, in their book Onto Others, okay, the evolution and psychology of unselfish behavior, proposed a theory of inherent altruism at the kin or group level, okay? So their book, they said there's an inherent altruism at the kin level. So they're in favor of, they're making an argument against the self-interest. They're saying at the kin level, people sacrifice themselves or their time or their energy. Like they might take actions that's not gainful to the individual. We had already refuted this idea by saying what? That there's the overlap of the genes, that there is the warm glow, the feeling of goodness, right? So even though you're sacrificing yourself for your kin, okay, or for your tribe, right? That doesn't mean that you're negating the idea. So because this argument's in favor of and against human nature. Some groups are saying, no, human beings are not self-interested, they're not selfish, they care. What we're saying is that, yes, you care about other people because you get a warm glow out of it. Let me give you this idea. Now, no one has thought about this. And if I see a beggar, someone, an unfortunate member of the society, he's a beggar, right? And I give him some money. Now, who's the buyer, who's the seller? Can you diagram demand and supply? Who's the buyer and who's the seller? What am I buying, what am I selling? Why is the beggar buying and selling? And it's the market, yeah.
You're buying warm glow.
I'm buying warm glow. There's a market for it. It's not like I need a government, I need like religion and things like that. There is a market. I am buying warm glow. And who's selling warm glow? The beggar. He has a sign. It says, help me, and then God will return a big favor to you, right? I mean, so the beggar is selling warm glow. It's like sometimes people actually search. Sometimes people want to help me. And I'm like, they give me some money. I'm like, if you want that warm glow, you have to give me more money. You know what I'm saying? I'm selling, I'm a seller. Obviously, you have to sell, you know. Even the beggar, right? I'm a beggar, I'm begging for money. But what I'm selling is not apples and oranges. I'm selling warm glow. It's a business. I go to the marketplace, I say, you want to feel good? Give me $1. If it is 50 cents, I said, I need $1. Like, you can negotiate. Beggars can negotiate. I'm selling you the feeling of goodness. Because after you give me the money, you don't give me money because you care about me. You don't care if I get hit by a bus the next day and die. It's not like, oh, what happened? You're going to cry, come to my funeral. No, at the moment, the transaction is complete. You give me $1, you know, you're going to call your friends, your wife, and then you're going to show, you're going to say, I helped someone. Or, depend on the crimes that you committed the day before, you're paying up for them, you're paying for them. It's like, you know, for the crimes, like you're covering the crimes that you've done. So, you're buying your guilt, I call it, right? So you can buy your guilt by helping someone, or you can help someone because it gives you warm glow, okay? Or it could be a strategic help, right? Mother Teresa, do you know who Mother Teresa is, right? She helped, she dedicated her life helping out the unfortunate members of society, the poor people in India and various places she traveled, right? So there's a quote attributed to her, I don't know if it's true, but they asked her apparently, said, you know, Mother Teresa, why did you sacrifice your life, you know, helping the poor and the, you know, the needy people and the sick and the handicapped, you dedicated your life. You know what she said? She said, because I wanted the doors of heaven to be wide open for me. So she had a purpose. She wanted to go to heaven, you know. So she wanted the gates of heaven. It's attributed to her. I'm not 100% sure if it's true, but... as we talked about, keen altruism may be regarded correctly as self-interested because it may affect the survivalist and reproductive capacities of human species as a group which have an overlapping gene. I have a few more slides. Furthermore, keen cooperation and altruism may be an effective means to subdue the plants and animal kingdoms. Sometimes altruism, I sacrifice myself, my time, my energy, right? This is based on the division of labor, so we can subdue the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, right? We're competing, human beings, for millions of years. We competed with the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, right? I mean, so it was a survivalist, it was a miserable, we were in poverty, in abject poverty throughout our humanity. Don't look at the last few hundred years. But for thousands of years, we were in abject poverty. That was the status quo. Nothing changed. If I take you to the 5th century and the 10th century, you wouldn't know which one is the 5th, which one's the 10th. Nothing observable changed. I take you 2000 BC and 2000, you wouldn't know what difference is. Okay? Nothing changed. All of this came together when? All of this boom, extraordinary advancements in technology, telecommunication, transportation, irrigation system, all of this came during the Industrial Revolution. And what preceded the Industrial Revolution? Did the Industrial Revolution come from from a vacuum? Why didn't it happen 200 years before or 100 years later? What preceded the Industrial Revolution?
I was going to say the printing press or...
But what gave rise to the printing press? What preceded the whole Industrial Revolution? Say louder?
Protestantism.
Protestantism, and we're going to talk about that eventually, okay? Protestantism, which went against the existing, the church, the dogmatic church, right? Where interest rate was forbidden, where accumulation of wealth was regarded in a negative way. And Protestantism turns this upside down. Say, oh, interest rate is a market mechanism. Wealth accumulation is a sign of God's grace. And it takes 200 years for all of that to get translated, right? Few hundred years, and we have the Industrial Revolution, and then now we are where we are. Life expectancy went up. We're taller by 2 inches. Life expectancy increased. Mortality rate went down. Consumption of calories went up. Okay, so all of these came like in the last few hundred years. Before that, I mean, we were in abject poverty. The kings of the 15th, 16th century compared to us, they'll be poor. Okay. So we humans are not altruistic for the sake of others, but rather for ourselves. David Hume, it says, it'd be rare to meet one who loves any single person better than himself. He said it's rare for someone to love another person better than himself, right? I mean, therefore we make allowance. He said, let's make allowance for a certain degree of selfishness in man. So we have to understand self-interest. Because we know to be inseparable from human nature, and it is inherent in our frame and constitution. Scottish philosopher David Hume. Furthermore, Hume discovered that after men have found by experience that their selfishness totally incapacitates them from society. So if you're selfish, then you'll be disconnected from society. Nobody likes you. And at the same time, they have observed that society is necessary, but you do want society, right? To the satisfaction of those very passions, they are naturally induced to lay themselves under the restraint of such rules as to render their commerce safer and more commodious, right? So he said we are self-interested, this is our nature, but sometimes we have to put our self-interest aside so we can enter society, right? But all I'm saying is that we don't have to put it aside. Your self-interest is mutually beneficial interest, right? Your self-interest leads you to produce the best products, to compete, to provide the goods and the services at a lower price, to maximize your profits. This is the most beautiful thing. You know what profit maximization is? It's like taking something of less value and turning it into something of more value by adding your labor, your know-how, your ingenuity, right? So profit is not an accounting measure, but we will talk about in pillar number 2, we will talk about the role of profits in a market society. It's not accounting, it's like, oh, I need more money. It's like the process, we care about process. So the process of you optimizing your profits in and itself has benefits to society. Okay, so when we're all interested in the doing rather than in what is. Okay, so this is teleological analysis. Blah blah, according to neither. So human phenomena that cannot, therefore self-interest should not be viewed as a flaw in our species, the naked apes, but rather as an essential for human preservation. As society grows, there's more cooperation, more specialization. Furthermore, the feeling good is considered biological because you experience positive emotions, and I talked about the dopamine, right? So the feeling of goodness, why you do good, is because there is a biological phenomena to it. Your body releases the feeling good emotions, chemicals, creating a psychological response in your body that contributes to a positive mood. And I'm going to stop here. It's 12:50. So we're going to take an hour and 10 minutes lunch break. Hopefully the food is here. Okay, I don't know. And then we're going to come back. And then we have 3 more lectures. We have Matthew is going to lead the first lecture, and hopefully Mark Scasso will be here for the last 2 lectures. Okay? So thank you, and that's all.